What's going on, beautiful people? I'm Jake Rosenberg. Thank you for joining me for a Free Flow Friday. It's been quite a while since I've done an episode at all, let alone a conversational free flow, and I'm super excited to bring this specific conversation to you because of who my guest is. I got my friend Zach Babcock, and this guy has quite an interesting background story. But what's even more interesting is that with his background, he still managed to make something of himself, something to be proud of, something that helps people. And so I'm so happy to have him on the show. I think I won't give away too much, but just listen into this, and then I hope it helps you. I found it especially exciting to talk with you about all different things, personal growth, podcasting, business, because of a couple of things. First off, every time I have a fellow podcaster on, it's always that much better. And also, just your history. I've only ever interviewed or had a conversation with one other guy that has this same or similar background to you, having gone through prison, having a background where they kind of fucked around and messed up their life a little bit and then made a great comeback. So I guess to start out, give me a little bit of a rundown, what that was like, growing up, how you ended up in prison, and what was that mind shift where you realized that you needed to change things?
Yeah, man. This is something that I'm really diving deep into, and another venture that I'm going to venture off into just because I like talking about this stuff more, even more than marketing, even though I love marketing too. But it's all about the identity, right? Like anytime we've made any significant change in life, it all started with identity. It didn't start with your reasons why. That's why I don't like that name of that book, Start With Why. I love the concepts in there, but you can't start there. It starts with your identity, like they talk about in psycho-cybernetics and atomic habits. And that's the reason why that quote rings true. That Henry Ford quote, that whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. It all starts with that identity. But to give a real quick answer, because I don't want to sit here like you mentioned. By the way, bro, have you ever had a guest come on and then they just start rambling? You ask one question, they start rambling for like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, and especially, at the end of the day, people would love to know your background, but don't dig too deep into it. That's the part that most people end up just skipping over because they want to get to the meat and bones.
Yeah, dude. No, yeah, I love that you're on the same page there. I've developed the art and skill of interjecting when people don't know any better and they just start rambling. I'll start like, wait a minute, why is it? Why do you do it that way? Or I'll make a quick joke or something just to break it up, because it's boring otherwise, and it'll put your audience to bed. But yeah, man. Quick overview of myself. So I did over 5 years of my life in prison, being a knucklehead, not having any chief aim in life, making a lot of poor decisions. I did 4 years flat, got out for 2 years, and then I went back 20 days before my twin sons were born. That was the moment I decided to own the rest of my life and get out and be a responsible father and move in the direction I am now. Got out, became an entrepreneur, got laughed at for the next 3.5 years, and then I launched Underdog Empowerment. It blew up right away. We got it ranked on day 3, had Billie Jean as marketing on the show the following week. And since then, it's just been a huge spiral of upwards momentum, grown a huge audience through the podcast, generated hundreds of thousands of dollars through it. And now I help other entrepreneurs do the same thing. And I'm also passionate about a lot of other things in life, kind of what we were just talking about with the identity. But yeah, man, that's the Cliff Notes version.
Nice. I love it. Now, you mentioned before this idea of, Simon Sinek's book, Start With the Why. And so many people love the concept, but at the end of the day, I see this over and over where people, they know they need to figure out what the heck they're doing over here. They're kind of lost though about how to go through that process. They're not sure where to start. And I think that's why so many people never end up doing this work of figuring out what their journey is going to look like, where they're headed, creating all of these goals. People just get lost in how to get started. So especially coming from a background where
I think you were maybe even a little more lost than the average person. Getting out of prison, I'm sure nobody wants to talk and deal with you, and everybody looks down on you, and you need to start from that place. What is your advice to getting started on figuring your shit out?
Yeah, dude. Well, to go with what you just said, you can't start with why. Dude, I tried to quit smoking cigarettes for over, I smoked cigarettes for 20 plus years of my life. And every time I tried to quit hundreds of times. I can't even count how many times I tried to quit. And I had all the reasons why I needed to quit, dude. I wanted to not be winded when I play with my kids. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle when she gets married. I want to watch my grandkids grow up. Strong, powerful reasons why to quit smoking, but that was never, ever, ever enough. And you can't start there. It starts with the identity. It starts with getting clear on who you are and creating that identity, and then reinforcing that identity. And now, a book that helped me with this is Psycho Cybernetics and Atomic Habits. I mentioned them earlier. And ever since then, I just been going down this rabbit hole and really understanding how the identity literally shapes everything that you do in life, and you can create your own reality by creating your identity, and you can literally recreate yourself. And I'm going to end with this because I don't want to talk for forever, but I literally recreated my identity over and over and over again in my life. You probably have too, and everybody listening to this, you can probably relate to it in some way, shape, or form. I recreated my identity in a prison cell when I lost my sister from a heroin overdose, and I'm in the hole, which is the prison side of the prison. And I recreated my identity right there that, hey, it doesn't matter what's getting thrown at me. I'm going to respond to any adverse situations by focusing on what I can control. And that has played dividends over and over and over again for me throughout life. I recreated my identity again when I woke up in prison or in jail, heading back to prison 20 days before my twin sons were born. I said, this is not me. I'm a good father. And ever since that moment, moved in the next direction. Recreated when I quit smoking. I mean, I could give countless of examples, but it all starts with identity. And yeah, we can unpack that more if you want.
I mean, I would love to dig into it a little bit, because what I've noticed, at least for myself, is, the more we go through these different processes and changes, kind of peeling those layers back one by one, and getting closer and closer to our truth, our personal truth. One of the things that I realized that I started doing subconsciously for quite a while was, like, my ego kind of grew from that, because I started looking at the world in a way of, I can do anything that I put my mind to. And I see that for a fact in what I'm getting out of life. And I had to kind of ring that ego back in and realize that just because other people are not doing the same work that I'm doing, just because they're not in the same place that I am, that they still have just as much value as a human being. And to be able to look at other people from through a lens of love, I guess you can say, and not be judgmental just because I'm putting in more hard work than many people are. Did you kind of feel something similar throughout your journey?
Yeah, man. Well, this is kind of on topic for what you're talking about. Maybe slightly, but it got the creative juices flowing from what you just said. But dude, I I know that I respond very well to tough love and straight shooting. Tell me like it is. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. Please tell me where I'm fucking up at. I don't want to get the praise because I'm always trying to get better, right? And that's me. So I've struggled, in the past where I had to learn this, like, and I'm still a firm believer in keeping it real with people. I have to balance that though with the tough love with compassion, always having compassion, and know that I'm at the end of the day, I'm truly trying to help somebody else. If I'm in that position where I'm trying to help them and get them to if they're looking for the help. But you have to balance that, because you got certain people though where they might be going through some shit, right? Or they might they might be a different archetype makeup than you, and you could say this thing that that you mean to say it with love to help them become a better version of themselves, but it like breaks them down, and who knows, they go out and commit suicide because of the thing you said made them feel like utter shit, right? So It's a thing. It's a tough thing to balance. You gotta be compassionate with tough love. And I think the best way to really do that is to really tap into your empathy of, what we all have. People say that women are more empathetic than men. I think that's just bullshit. I think that's the society, agenda or whatever, not agenda, but bullshit that they push upon us, because we take on these things as a kid, like, oh, a man doesn't cry and blah, blah. That's bullshit. We all have these emotions, and we literally had to rely on empathy before we even had language as a tool when we were worried about fucking saber-toothed tigers and shit. You know what I'm saying? We had to see fear on the face of our fellow tribemen and be like, oh shit, we're, we better be on alert. Like, we all have that skill. And if we can tap into it more, I think we could do more things with it.
Mm. I love that you kind of went in this direction, and it kind of sparked this thought in my head. These days we see a lot of, I'm going to talk as a man right now, a lot of young men and boys growing up in the current world and feeling very lost because of the messages that society is spreading these days. I find that a lot of younger men are just confused as hell about what it means to be a man, what kind of responsibilities to take on, whether they should, or maybe they shouldn't even take on responsibility, because the more responsibility you take on, people might kind of put these stereotypical, whatever they might call it, you're being too aggressive, you're being too tough, whatever it is. Um, how do you kind of look at all of this as a man in this world and kind of fight through all the noise and stay focused on what's important? Because at the end of the day, there is a lot of fucking noise.
Yeah, no, I love this topic, dude. This is something that I'm so deep off into right now. Like, don't get me wrong, I love building the business and marketing stuff, but man, this shit excites me way more. And this is probably what I'm shifting my brand to. Really, I haven't really publicly announced that now, but I've been thinking so deeply about this. But dude, so success is not, especially for the young guys. Yeah, hopefully there's some listening, but it's not about what society, like, oh, you got to have the $100,000 car or whatever, all this shit, right? Like, no, if you want 100,000, is $100,000 car going to make you happy? Because don't get me wrong, I think it would be cool to drive one, but I don't have like a huge desire to have the Lambo or whatnot. Like, I'm going to drive one eventually just to do it. But like, I'm not a car guy, you know what I'm saying? And so I define that success for me. For me, you got to define what success means to you first. And it comes with like getting clear on that vision. Like, ask yourself, what do you really want in life that's going to make you happy? Is that, and you got to ask that in every area of your life. And so, like, for me, I sacrificed for a long time my health, my relationships, when I got out of prison, became an entrepreneur, because I thought I had this bullshit limiting belief that I had to go all in on my business so that I could have the time freedom and financial freedom. And then eventually, over time, I got so wrapped up in it that I forgot the real reasons why I was starting it all for. When I made that decision in that jail cell to get back in my kid's life, and I wasn't spending the time with my twin boys that are turning 7. And so I was like, man, fuck that. I'm going to be a complete architect of my life and design every single area. I'm talking about how I show up as a father, how I show up in my health. Like, dude, 210 pounds, 10% body fat, 6-pack abs, and optimal health. Clear vision. I got it on my vision board. I know exactly what it looks like. In a great husband that I spend quality time with Stephanie. We don't got to be like this bullshit in love that you are in that first honeymoon phase, but we love each other and do shit for each other because we love and care about each other. And it's taking her out on the date night every single week. It's doing the small things every day, going out of my way like a little handwritten note. These things, it's a clear picture. I know exactly what that looks like. Same with business, same with every single area in life. It starts with that vision, and then that's the identity, right? And then in the process of having that identity, we can go deeper on this, but I do a bunch of shit that reinforces that identity. I behave like these people do. And in the process of behaving, I become them over time. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to reinforce that identity.
Right. I love that. Especially, I kind of looked at it through the lens of a man, but that answer is perfect for whether you're a man, a boy, a woman, a girl. That's kind of the way to approach life. And I love that you kind of the way you ended on that note. Sean Whalen talks about this all the time about not trying to eat the elephant whole. And I see so many people trying to do that. And I did that for a long time. I think that's where a lot of people end up shooting themselves in the foot. So, what do you do to keep yourself focused in your life? Because I know I feel like I'm a lot like you in that sense where, we have our main business, but we also have all these other things that we love doing. And sometimes it feels like a juggling act to make sure that you cover all your bases. And if you're not covering all your bases, then what's the point in being great in one area when you're kind of failing in another? So how do you do all that? How do you juggle it?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of different tactics that I can share. I'm going to share the ones that I feel like will give the most value in my own perspective, but we can go deep on this as well and keep going. But some things that I do. So, I know this is a podcast, so some people are seeing the recording, but a lot of you are just hearing it. But I got this little tool right here. It's called a Remarkable 2. And it's basically what it is it combines what it feels like writing on real paper. And, there's the text, it's not the same connection. Actually, the pen to paper connection with your mind is completely different versus texting something on your phone. And so it's like writing on real paper, and it combines both the digital experience with that and combines the best of both worlds. Anyways, I get to keep all my shit organized, and I can copy and paste shit and scale it and move it around, and also write real handwritten notes. But anyways, I got a log, dude. So like after I got clear on all these different things, right? So for an example, the 210 pounds, 10% body fat, 6-pack abs, and optimal health. All right. So I was like, well, what does that person do? All right. And so I got really clear on exactly what that person does. The person eats a nutritionally balanced meal 6 days a week. You know what I'm saying? Has one cheat meal maybe a week at most. He takes supplements. He gets proper 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. All these different things, right? And then and cold showers and ice baths and like all these things. So I made up this habit tracking log because when I was in prison the first time and I lost my sister from the heroin overdose, dude, I developed this routine. I was talking about how I reinforced that identity of how I respond to adversity by focusing only on the shit I can control. I couldn't control that my sister just died from a heroin overdose and my mom found her dead on the floor with a needle in her arm. And I'm in a 8x10 cell in the hole, which is a prison inside the prison. And I can't get out of there. I put myself in there, but I couldn't control the fact that my sister died and that I wasn't going to be there. And so I didn't have control over that, but I did have control over the things that I could do to find happiness and peace in that moment. And that was by developing this crazy routine schedule. And I kept track of it on the blocks on my wall and put little check marks every time that I would do a push-up. And then I sets of 10. And then all these different things, cleaning the cell every day, I'd put a little check mark for that and had these different categories separated. And so I'm going back to the basis and doing that with this notebook. Every time that I work out, I log my workouts and write down what I did, how much weight and how much reps that I do it whenever I'm doing strength training, whenever I'm doing HIIT training, I log that. And then I have these habits tracker where I get a mark at X if I drank a gallon of water that day, or if I took my supplements and all this stuff. And all that's doing is it's consistently reinforcing the identity that I'm building right now. And over time, I take on that identity and it becomes automatic.
I love how the genesis of that is such a powerful image to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, our bitch voice will always creep up, right? And if you think about that image of you in a small cell with this knowledge that your fucking sister just died and you can't do anything about that to be there, but to still find a place of peace is so powerful. I tell the story of this. There was this German guy, I forget his name, but he found the lost city of Troy way back in, I think it was the 1800s. This guy was a entrepreneur like no other. He always found some sort of hustle to start a business and make money. The guy traveled the world, came to America from Germany where he grew up during the Civil War, actually. And you can actually read his journals, because this guy kept journals throughout his whole life. And I always say how fascinating it is to read his journals through all the crazy things he went through, traveling, going through a civil war, people calling him a liar and a fraudster, and just over and over. And yet in his journals, there is no record of any of that. All you see in his journals is him finding one thing after another to attack and to apply his mind to start another business, to travel to the next place, to find the next passion. And it's so powerful to remember that you always got to find your own sense of normal in the chaos of the world. And I think especially these days, when a lot of people feel like they are in a super chaotic place because of COVID and all the other bullshit that's going on. So that image of you in that cell and finding a place of normalcy is powerful as hell, man.
If you don't mind, I'd just like to say one little thing there. I'm not saying that anybody that knows me, dude. I'm not an arrogant dude. I'm very, very humble. I know that my shit stinks just like everybody else. I call myself out on my shit all the time because I make plenty of mistakes, probably more than the average person. I'm willing to bet. I'm probably that high person that makes me in that category. All the time, and I continue to make mistakes all the time. And I learn from them, but I do. But I'm not saying this like an arrogant way, but like COVID wasn't shit to me because of that experience that I got to go through prison. Like, dude, literally taught me, and this has paid dividends. And I'm saying this because if you understand this concept right here, it can pay dividends for you too. I'm not the only person that has tapped into this, and I'm not the first person that's tapped into it, and I definitely won't be the last. Literally, like there's going to be shit that happens in life all the time that none of us can control happening to us. It's going to happen. COVID-19, none of us could control that shit. There's countless of examples, right? However, you always, no matter fucking what, you always had the freedom to choose how you respond to anything that happens to you. So many of us chose to respond to COVID-19 in a bad way, and we got fat and out of shape, or we got real lonely. We didn't pick up. Our habits got shooken up, and we replaced this shaken up with a lot of bad habits as a result. And then some of us responded in a different way and kept going with it and built new habits that were in alignment with their old ones so they can continue doing what they were doing. Or some people, it helped them come out of the dark, because they're in the dark before COVID happened and they started excelling, And all those examples, though, each and every one of those person decided to respond that way. And so at the end of the day, you create your reality, your circumstances on the way how you choose to respond to what happens to you. That's the freedom right there that can't nobody ever take away from you.
Amen. I think that is the most powerful, like, golden nugget you can drop ever. Is at the end of the day, it's in your hands. Like you said, can't control the situation, but you could always control how you're going to respond to it. So digging into the business side for a minute, you've gone from that place to right now. You have not only built and scaled your own podcast, but you've helped many, many other people do that. And as a podcaster myself, I know how powerful it is from a business perspective alone to build a podcast. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? How did you scale your podcast? What are some secrets that you're maybe willing to share with other people, or maybe they got to come and talk to you directly for that? Because I know that's kind of your business too. But give us some insider tips.
Yeah, dude. No, dude, I'm an open book, man. I'm a firm believer of this, man. I share all my shit openly. I literally share all of it openly. And you can probably go across all my content and piece it all together and like have a blueprint you can. I got plenty of shit on my YouTube channel. I talk about it on Facebook. I talk about it on Instagram. I talk about it in Clubhouse. I talk about it on podcasts that I'm on. I talk about it on my own podcast. I give it all away for free, dude. And the reason why, because I'm a firm believer of this, rising tides floats more ships. If I talk about all the shit that I know, people are going to see that I'm the real deal. And there's people that value their money more than time. Those are usually the people that are just getting started and can't afford your services, and they're the do-it-yourselfers. And then there's people that value their time more than money, and they already kind of got the business rocking and rolling, except for they have very little time because they got all these other shit that's going on. And so even if they hear you drop the gems, they're like, yeah, that's cool. I just want to hire you so I can really get it all in an organized manner and tell me exactly what to do step by step by step. And then for the people that are the do-it-yourselfers, and I'm going to end it on this, bro, I promise. The people that are the do-it-yourselfers, guess what? Will you help them? Yeah, they go do it yourself, but guess what? They go and implement shit that you help them with. Not all the times, but a lot of times they're going to go sing your praises to other people and be like, dude, Zach shit's the real shit, man. I listen to him on his podcast growth shit, and I got my podcast ranked, and I'm interviewing these top level people, and I'm starting to make money with it, blah, blah, blah. And guess what that does? That brings more people into your ecosystem. And some of those people are going to value their time more than money, and it brings you more clients in the long run. So anyways, as far as the podcast goes, dude, I have 5 pillars of my marketing system, right? And I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but there's the foundational pillar, which is your content, and that's your marketing message as well. And that's the most important pillar. And it's your foundation, right? That holds up the rest of the house. And then the other 4 pillars are growth pillars, and that's getting ranked on Apple is one of them. The other one is growing your audience, your downloads. Another one is monetizing your podcast. And another one is interviewing celebrities and becoming one in the process. Out of those, though, they're all important and everything feeds each other, right? Your content is the most important, and having that marketing message dialed in, because none of those growth pillars matter if you don't have your marketing message dialed in. I call it the 4 W's of podcast marketing. But out of the 4 growth pillars, the main thing that you could focus on doing is growing your podcast audience. It's because it's going to feed everything else, right? More people listen to your podcast, the higher on the charts on Apple you climb. More people listen to your podcast, the higher level guests you'll be able to bring on your podcast. Think of Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. Elon Musk only goes on Joe Rogan's because he has the biggest audience. Mm-hmm. More people downloading your podcast, the more business, the more people know, like, and trust you, the more business you're going to generate. So yeah, man, focus on growing the audience. And one of the best ways, the main way that I've grown my podcast audience organically is through going on other podcasts like I'm doing right now and just jamming and being myself, and then plugging Underdog Empowerment on the podcast. That's it, man. Literally simple as that.
Hell yeah. That's it's really great. And you mentioned about interviewing other people and getting on other people's podcasts. And, I noticed something over the last few years of podcasting. I've interviewed, steadily, what I would say is higher ranking people over time. And the people that I get to interview at this point that I would have a couple of years ago never believed that I would even be able to have a conversation with is phenomenal. But I'm curious, having also spoken to a lot of people that many other people look up to, in a sense, what would you say that you've learned the most from talking to these people that everybody considers to be out of reach?
That everybody's just like you and me. They're human beings, bro. I used to fanboy at first, but then I realized that, man, these people are just like you and me. They're just further along in their entrepreneurial journey, or in whatever aspect of life that it is that they're experts in or whatnot. So like Andy Frisella, I've had him on the show twice. Mm-hmm. Just a regular dude, just like you and me. He's just been doing it for a lot longer. You know what I'm saying? I will say this, like, a common denominator out of everyone, that like the big, like Patrick Bet David, Andy Frisella, Dean Graziosi, Grant Cardone, and yada yada, all the people I've sat down with, is that they all are really dialed in on their vision and their identity. It's kind of coming full circle, but they are visionaries, and they know exactly what the vision is, every aspect of their life. And you walk into their buildings, like I've been in First Form or Valuetainment with Patrick Bet David, and it's the real thing. You feel that energy, the culture that they developed, because they were so clear on the vision and their core values of what they stand for and what they do not stand for. And they built a culture around that and brought in people that support all the vision, mission, and the core values that they're all about. So that's definitely a common denominator that I've seen.
I love how that came full circle almost naturally. So I guess we could wrap up on that. I mean, almost everything we've spoken about can be an entire podcast episode of its own. And there's a lot to dig into these things. Maybe we'll have some more conversations in the future, hopefully. But
yeah,
before we kind of wrap this up, why don't you tell the people listening how they can find you, how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate you asking. It's definitely the podcast Underdog Empowerment. It's what I'm most passionate about. You can check it out on almost any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts on. But to make it super simple for everybody, you can go to underdogempowerment.com. Right there on the homepage, you just got to scroll down a little bit. There's a podcast section that has a red button that says subscribe. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all that good shit. Hope to see you guys over there on the podcast. If you need podcast marketing help, growth, if you are the person that values your time more than money, you can go to podcastpowertrain.com. It has a whole list of everything that we do and how we can help as far as one-on-one consulting, masterminds, done for you services, you name it. It's all there. We even have a course for beginner entry-level people. It starts off your first month for $1 and then ongoing it's $250 a month. That's at podcastpowermoves.com for the entry-level course that drips out and shows you how to become a rock star podcast host. So yeah, underdogempowerment.com, podcastpowertrain.com, and podcastpowermoves.com. Appreciate you having me on your show, dude. I've had a blast today.
Oh yeah, this is great. As always, I love having conversations with people that keep it as real as they can be. Like you said many times throughout this conversation, you know, the more real you are with yourself and with other people, better quality life you're going to have. So thank you for joining me. This has been great. Appreciate you.
You the man, Jake. Thank you again, man. I appreciate you, bro.
And to you, my listener, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this show, please go leave a review on iTunes. It helps me out more than you know.